Hello people, today I'm doing a ranking of all 6 Denis Villeneuve films that I have seen. I know he's made more than 6 films, but I've seen his English films, so yeah, I'm just lazy and, and haven't seen any of his non-English movies. I do really want to see them though, and I do plan to get to them at some point. But I do want to talk about his filmography because I'm right off Dune. I've seen it 4 times now in less than a week, so I definitely want to talk about his filmography overall and rank them, obviously. Right now, it's really a tug of war right now. Who's my favorite director? It's really tug of war between Nolan and Denis. So, right now, Nolan's winning it, but I feel like once Dune Part 2 comes out, that might change. And if Dune Part 2 is anywhere near the quality of the first Dune, which I suspect it will be, Denis is on track to be my new favorite filmmaker, but it also depends on how Nolan's project Oppenheimer turns out. But let's just go ahead and start ranking these. Coming in at number 6 is Enemy. Enemy is a great movie overall. All of his movies are great. He hasn't made a bad one. Well, out of the couple I've seen. So, Enemy, what puts this in last place is mostly because I don't have necessarily an emotional attachment to anything. And so, it's a very fascinating concept and something I was interested in the whole time, but I was interested, but I wasn't invested, if that makes sense. I didn't necessarily care, like if Jake Gyllenhaal died at the end, I would have been like, oh, okay. Like, I would have been phased either way by it. So, yeah, that's what puts it in last. It has a lot of great thought-provoking, questions what everything meant. It's very metaphor heavy, and that's why I really like that. It really had no restraints, and it's definitely his movie, and that's what I like about all these movies. He's definitely one of the most auteur directors that's working right now. Coming in at number 5 is Sicario. Sicario is a movie I like slightly better because it has, a bigger scope, bigger, obviously has more action, but it still struggles in the fact of I was interested but not invested. And particularly is that if the writing for each character was just a little bit better, if there was a little bit more reason for me to root for someone, because not particularly any of the characters are really, you can't really root for any of them, but not to say that the cast does not do a great job, because Emily Blunt, Daniel Kaluuya, Benicio del Toro, Josh Brolin, they all give phenomenal performances in this movie. It's just their characters that they're playing weren't particularly likable, but not to say that this movie is just extremely so well crafted. Like, of course, with Denis directing, Roger Deakins cinematography, the haunting score. I can't remember the name of who did this, but he did a phenomenal job because the score in this is just haunting. Yeah, it's definitely one of his. It's really the movie I think that really showed a lot of people out there that he has a voice in what he's trying to do. But the only thing that slightly holds us back is like the characters aren't particularly likable. But not to say like this movie is still like a 9 out of 10 for me. So just because it's like five or six doesn't mean I don't like it. And that's the thing about rankings. It's really just from best to best. Because they're all just great movies. Coming in at number 4 is Dune, and that's how much of a good filmmaker I think he is. This is at the bottom half of what I think he's done, but it still manages to be in my top 30 of all time. Still manages to be the best movie of the year. So that tells you something, because I don't want you guys to see Dune at number 4 and go, what? Because it's, when I like this guy so much. And that's the other thing. Dune Part 2 might complement the first Dune so well, which I suspect it will. Once I see Dune Part 2, I might put the first Dune ahead a couple slots. So don't take this as a definite spot. This is very much a placeholder spot until we get Part 2, because, it's really just half the story. So if it were, it'd be kind of cool to just rank Dune as just Part 1 and 2 combined and just put it with his other work. That'd be an interesting thing to do. But for right now, I'm just going to leave it there. And heck, maybe next time I watch Dune, I might go ahead and put it above whatever and whatever. But I think this is a very definite spot for her right now. But let's not talk about where I place it. Let's talk about the movie. The movie, everyone calls it big and dense and stuff like that. But I want to take a second to Shout out Rebecca Ferguson, which I don't think I mentioned in my review. Well, I think I went over her name, but I didn't talk about how good I thought her performance was because she gave the best performance out of all the cast. Like, and this movie even sold me on Timothy Chalamet because I always thought he was good. I wasn't particularly like he's like the actor of our time, but this movie really opened my eyes of like the acting chops that he really can do, particularly in the tent scene. I thought he was phenomenal there. Um, you know, as Nolan said, it's one of the best blends of practical and CGI you'll ever see, and I do 100% believe that. It's just so immersive. You believe everything that you're seeing. You believe someone took a camera to Arrakis and filmed everything. And that's what some of my favorite movies do. Like, my favorite movie of all time, Interstellar, I feel like I went with Matthew McConaughey and followed him on this journey. It just was so perfectly executed that way. And this movie captures that feeling as well. So, yeah, Dune, fantastic movie. Coming in at number 3 is Arrival. Arrival is like the movie to show someone if they haven't seen a Denis film before because it takes the sci-fi elements but also takes like the realism elements of like Sicario or Enemy and just puts them together all in one movie. And that's what makes Arrival so special to I think what he's able to do as a filmmaker because it takes this thing that we talk about all the time. What if aliens came to Earth? Like, what would happen? Makes it feel real because we have so many, movies like Independence Day. Like, it's like, oh, aliens, but you never feel the weight of it. That you feel the weight of every single line of dialogue in this movie. Only complaint is that it's not his most rewatchable movie. I still rewatch this all the time, but like, like I said, I watched Dune 4 times since it's been released last week. I wouldn't have been able to do that with Arrival per se, like the first time I watched it. It's a movie that I do revisit a lot, but not as much as I revisit like some of his other movies. But Arrival's still a fantastic movie. It proves that Amy Adams is one of the most underrated actresses working right now. She is such a great actress, and of course, it's maybe his most emotional film he has made because Amy Adams' character and what she goes through in this movie and the way that they tell it is just so well done and told in like an emotionally draining way. I love Arrival, and number 2 is which one's it gonna be? Which one's gonna be? You guys know which one maybe? Prisoners. Prisoners is just I'm never gonna forget watching it. It's one of those movies that you just never gonna forget watching for the first time. And I watched this on a 55-inch TV. I did not have the privilege to watch this on the big screen, but just wow, it's a long movie, and for the premise of how simple it is, but like I said, Denis, famous. I think he's just always been a master at atmosphere, and he just perfectly captures the atmosphere and moodiness, the tone of what if your daughters went missing. It just perfectly immerses you into almost the depression of it. And not to say like it's a depressing movie, and that's what I love about it. But yeah, like the performances just elevate it even more. This is probably his best. Sorry, my phone is giving me a 10% warning, so I better get through this quick. But it's his best performed movie. Like Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, Viola Davis, what's his name? Terrence Howard. All great in the movie. Even the kids that they get, just great. Paul Dano is just really creepy in this movie. And I guarantee you that's the role that got on the Riddler. But Prisoners is just a movie. I watched this, like, it's not a movie you would think that I would go back and watch a lot. But it is one of those. It takes something as simple that you would see on Dateline all the time and immerses you into it. And it's like, this is what Dateline should be. I should have felt like by the end of the movie rolled around, this is not meant as an insult, but I was like, and Lester Holt should be showing up around now. Because this movie just perfectly captures that fear and dread and atmosphere, and everything he does, Denis pulls off of this movie is just pure perfection. Also, Roger Deakins did cinematography for this, and it's just stunning. Coming in at number 1 is my second favorite film of all time, Blade Runner 2049. Yeah, it's pure cinema. It's a long sci-fi movie. Clearly, I have some taste in long sci-fi films because with my favorite film being Interstellar. It really did feel like Denis' Interstellar. Like when if you had to like compare each film to like Nolan's work, but like I said, Denis is a master of putting you in a world and creating an atmosphere to make it feel real, and that's what I love about him. And for a movie such as high concept as Blade Runner, and the way that he pulls it off, it's just phenomenal. You watch this movie and you're just like, how does it look this good, and how did this bomb at the box office? Because like, even though I don't think it's his most emotionally resonant movie, I do think it's his most thought-provoking. Like, whenever I watch Blade Runner 2049, I am just sitting there thinking about it. Like, not like the plot or anything, but like the moral questions of AI that's brought up. Not artificial intelligence. But I just make sure I use the right acronym there. But yeah, it just gets me thinking. Like, I still get lost thinking about this movie all the time, thinking what rights would a robot that thinks that they're alive deserves. Do they deserve rights? Should they get rights? And it's really almost an unsolvable problem, because it also gives you questions: what makes them human? Like, them believing that they're not human is almost like the most human trait anyone can have. So them contemplating their head stuff is just so relatable, and that's why it's so fascinating. You literally relate in this movie to a robot. He's a robot. Ryan Gosling's a robot, and he's the most relatable character in the whole movie. So that's what I love about this movie. Harrison Ford's in it, and he's great. But Ryan Gosling was great in the movie. The whole cast is great. Jared Leto, surprisingly really good in the movie. It's a 3-hour sci-fi epic, and I ate it up, and it just gives me everything I want from a film, and particularly a Denis Villeneuve film. So yeah, that is my ranking of the 6 Denis Villeneuve films that I have seen. Comment down below what your ranking is of them, and if you've seen his other movies that are non-English, go ahead and rank those down below. I'm curious to see where they rank for you guys among with his other films. So yeah, anyways, this was quite the list, so like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.